I should be able to figure this out. I sat there crying into my desk, angry, frustrated, and feeling alone. Guilt pulsating through my body. As I can hear my son, who was 2 at the time, laughing downstairs with the very part-time babysitter we couldn't afford. 26 and 3 children. A social work degree, a corporate dream job I didn't want, and one that friends were envious of. Why can't I just be normal? I would repeat this statement over and over again. What is wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy with what I have? I pick my head up off the desk and wipe my tears. I put the noise-canceling headphones on. I can hear my heart beating in the silence. More tears rolling down my face. I put my hand on my heart. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. I keep breathing. Guilt. Why are you here? I ask my body. I listen, not yet fully understanding how to trust myself. A thought pops up. I'm here to get your attention, not to slow you down. I listen deeper and ask another question. Guilt. What do you need from me to feel safe to leave my body? The response blew my mind. You need to hire more help. Hire help? Hire help. But how? We were living paycheck to paycheck at the time. I was already working my job as a social worker, and when I wasn't working, I was with the boys or working on my business that had no consistent income. But how? How can I? How can I? More tears started to roll down my face. A huge part of me felt guilty for wanting more. I was told by family that my job was to buy groceries and gifts and be with the kids. But there was always that other part of myself I couldn't avoid. The part that knew if I didn't feel like I was making an impact, I wasn't really living. And not living and nurturing that part of myself made me angry and depressed. And I didn't understand why depression and anger was the standard for how I was allowed to feel. How can I? I kept asking this question, choosing faith over fear. Guilt wasn't holding me back. It was guiding me back to myself. Hello, hello. Okay. That was a story that I wrote around guilt and business. And because today, this is going out on a Thursday, is the business-focused podcast, I wanted to talk about the topic around guilt and asking for help and hiring help. This is a huge issue and one that I see more with women than with men in general. I primarily focus and work with women, whether it's helping them develop the habit of feeling alive in their home, in their personal life, their relationships, their health, their well-being, mental, emotional well-being, or in their professional life. And it was a few years ago when I started my business and started teaching and speaking and coaching, it was really, from my background of social work and emotional health and therapy and all of that. And we were very personal focused. And I started to attract a lot of women, professional women, whether they were in corporate or they own their own business. And what I noticed was what was happening at home in their personal relationships, they were also bringing to their business. And there's this quote that I remember one of my mentors told me years ago. And I've heard it from a lot of different people, so it's definitely not my quote, but I don't know who to give direct credit to. And it goes, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And what I was noticing is how guilt, right? Guilt in my mothering at the time, my parenting, was showing up in my business. And so the story talks about my early days of business. And I will tell you, I still struggle and still in challenge with guilt. The difference now is I use it as a superpower, and I use it to fuel the actions that I take. But I also don't allow guilt or fear or shame to control my behaviors. So if I know that I'm acting out of guilt, I can identify it and I can turn my action around. So let's talk about hiring help. One of the main, I don't want to say one of the main reasons why I see women upper limiting themselves in their business or feeling stuck or capped when it comes to making money, when it comes to feeling that abundance, when it comes to really making an impact, being seen, putting themselves out there, whatever that is they don't have the right support around them. And what happens is you have to have a lot of faith over fear. And this is where all your shit comes up. This is where, all your past traumas will come up of, well, I'm not consistent. I don't have any proof that it's going to work. What if I don't see my ROI? All of the stories are going to come up. And the truth is, when you look at your past history, you have to invest before you actually see an outcome. Think about post-secondary education. You don't go to school and then, see results. We have been conditioned culturally that you legit save up for post-secondary education for years and years and years. You go to school and you have absolutely no guarantee that you are going to be successful with that education. Hence the reason why people have ridiculous amounts of debts. They can't find jobs, all of that, right? And there is this cultural belief around certainty and security. If I get this education, I'm going to be secure, I'm going to be safe, I'm going to be yada, yada, yada. It's just the norm. And then you follow the crowd, you become a sheep, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, I have all of this debt, I now have this education, and I'm angry, miserable, depressed, depleted, not this, not this, not this. And then the second you were like, I need to hire help, whether it is outsourcing your laundry, whether it's outsourcing cleaning, whether it's outsourcing I want to say childcare, and I don't mean outsourcing all the childcare, but even just a break, right? You can be a stay-at-home mom, work from home mom, work out of the home. You could be whoever the hell you want to be. And, you have this belief and expectation that if you hire help, you have failed in some capacity. And you have to ask yourself, is that actually true? Because when you are acting from a place of guilt, you're stuck. You're chronically stuck, and it's going to hold you back, and you're going to stay in that stuckness because that stuckness actually feels safe. It legit feels safe. Your brain thinks, stay here. Being in this suffering and emotional discomfort is better than going out into the unknown. So in my early days of starting my business, I never wanted to be a business owner. Absolutely never had a desire to be a business owner. I grew up, my father and my grandfather were entrepreneurs. My grandfather owned a campground. He started a campground, literally from nothing, had a farm field. He was a visionary, and he was actually creative. He used to paint a lot. And he started a campground, and it grew, and it was very successful. And then my father took it over. And so I grew up in this business that literally this empty farmer's field turned into a family campground. And it was in the family for, a few generations. And when I grew up in that, the beliefs that I acquired around business were you don't have time for family, you work 24 hours a day, and you're always stressed out, miserable, but yet at the same time, you love it. And so I remember thinking to myself, this is fun and exciting, and I can see, the freedom that you have, but it also looks very stressful behind the scenes when people assume that things are always easy. And you work all the time because again, it was my grandfather and my father, so those were men. They were not the primary caregivers for children, and it was just different than what the women did. And so I was just like, oh, I can't do that. Like I already discounted what I was capable of doing. And so when I became a mother, and a social worker, and I was working my job, and I just remember feeling like not this, like I can't be here for 30 years. There's one aspect of my job that I really enjoy, which was helping people and working with the people, but I didn't like working within the system, and I also didn't enjoy the hours and the lack of flexibility that I had, and I think it was just a little bit of my personality. So I started teaching meditation and mindfulness to children. And as I started doing that, I started to gain more faith and trust in, can I do more? Can I do more? Can I do more? And so it happened very organically. So I see a lot of people, this was 10 years ago. So now everyone is selling you a course or something like that on their system and do this and you'll be perfect. And I bought into that at the beginning, but you have to realize that there's a lot of problem-solving skills that you need as a business owner, a lot of critical thinking skills, and you develop these as you go, a lot of doing and failing. And that persistence is what makes you successful. It's not about somebody else's system that makes you successful. There's always strategies that can help you, but you're going to go into anything in your life thinking a specific strategy is going to work for you. And what you're going to realize is parts of that strategy will work for you. And my most successful clients are the ones that literally take what I say and run with it. And I say, here's my templates, here's my strategies, but take what works and make it your own. And the ones that are really, really successful are the ones that are willing to ask for help. Because inside of our Mastery and Mastery Business programs, you get a mentor, you get access to me. And when you're like, hey, I tried this, it didn't work. What are your suggestions? You're getting feedback from me. You're getting feedback from a mentor who's been through the program already. You're getting feedback from colleagues. Like you have to develop, not colleagues, but people in the community. You have to develop that problem solver. How can I? But when we allow fear, guilt, frustration, overwhelm to dictate our actions, which typically means we hide and run away, it's like you're throwing more dirt into a hole. You feel heavier, you feel sadder, you feel more depressed, you feel more anxious. And as somebody who in my past has been diagnosed with clinical depression, has been put on antidepressants, I'm not saying that, there's life on the other side. What I'm saying is I had to chronically fight against systems, people, and beliefs to choose myself. I had to get wildly emotionally uncomfortable, face my guilt, and say, why are you here? And I had to hire help when I had no money. So what does that mean? Well, in the story, I talk about how I hired a part-time babysitter. And I remember those early days. My husband was working outside of the house. He would be gone. I want to say 9 to 5, but he would be gone at like 6 a.m. and come home at 7 p.m. sometimes. We were barely able to pay the bills. And I'm hustling to do what I can to pay the bills because I'm living out of a place of fear. I didn't trust that we were going to be okay in the future. And I remember we would barely squeak and make ends meet. And when I hired this babysitter, I think it cost me $200 a week or something. I have no idea. And I had them come to the house instead of putting my child in daycare at the time, because we had multiple kids and it was going to be really expensive. And I don't remember the reason. I think because I just wanted them there for a few hours a day or whatever it was. But like, we didn't have that money. We literally were like making ends meet. We didn't buy all of the extras. We weren't going on vacation. I mean, we would do little, cheap staycations, but we really prioritized where our resources went. And my husband trusted me, but there were times where he's like, "What are you doing?" Right? So I get a lot of questions about, how does your husband support you? And sometimes he didn't. I had to have tremendous faith and trust in myself. And I had to dig deep. And, we would sell things off. I remember we would sell furniture. You do what you can to make ends meet. But the credit cards started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at one point, I had a personal credit card that I was using for my business, and it was at $20,000 and it was maxed out. And every time I kept reinvesting in myself. And one of the stories that I kept telling myself to keep me going was, this is cheaper than getting a master's degree. I am developing skills both personally and or professionally right now that is going to support me longer term, both for my physical health, mental health, emotional health, and financial health. And you have to have tremendous faith and trust, or be willing to grow your faith and trust when you are building a business and becoming a business owner. Because you are the one that pays yourself. You are the one that gives yourself a raise. You are the one that's going to challenge yourself. And personally, what I see as the biggest identity crisis that people have when they're shifting from employee mindset to business owner is that you have to take radical responsibility for your results. And you can't blame anybody else. You can't blame anybody for your paycheck. You can't blame anybody for lack of results. You can't blame anybody, because it literally all comes back to you. And so there's this parallel between emotional intelligence and results. And this is the guilt. This is the fear. This is the overwhelm, the anger, resentment, depression, frustration. Is that I had to chronically every single day look at my emotions every day. I couldn't avoid them. Like, I actually don't know how people live their life just avoiding their feelings and quote unquote being successful. Because I don't care how much money you have in the bank. If you don't feel successful, you're not actually successful. You're just running, and you think you're going to get validation and happiness from money or what you're wearing or what car you're driving, when in reality, it's the inner journey that you're craving. So every day I had to look at my guilt, and I had to choose my desire over guilt. I had to ask my guilt, why are you here? You have to develop such a strong, intuitive, connected relationship with yourself. And if you don't, that disconnect is going to manifest in every relationship in your life. So what I noticed when I was starting my business, which was very parenting focused, very relationship focused, was the reason why I felt so afraid in my parenting, I was living from a place of fear, was because, and parenting out of a place of fear, was because I was living from a place of fear. And the reason why I felt so guilty in my parenting was because I didn't know how to manage my guilt. I didn't know how to talk to my guilt. So like I said earlier, I still feel guilt. I still feel fear. I still feel overwhelmed. But it's almost like now it's like that fly buzzing by your ear is more annoying. But I feel it, but I don't act from that place. I'm like, ooh, there you are. Oh, this is the action that I want to take. And I'm like, oh, I know I can't take that action. And I feel my discomfort. I get emotionally uncomfortable. I feel it, like you're sitting in it. But I act in alignment with my bigger vision. So I hired help. I am not a financial advisor by any means. And I will tell you, when you err on the side of caution, and you live your life from the safety lens and security lens, most successful entrepreneurs that I will tell you have done some risky shit. So yeah, I invested in myself. I took wildly emotionally uncomfortable action. I implemented what I was learning, which I think is a big difference from some people who buy courses and buy mentorship and don't implement it. I actually took action. And I received the feedback. So when people are like, what the fuck's wrong with you, Heather? I would be like, oh, I'm sabotaging myself. I had all of the imperfections. So when I see it in my clients, I'm like, I know what you're doing. And if they're like, no, or they're hiding, I'm like, I get it. Like, I was totally there, but you have to be willing to face your emotional discomfort. So like I said, I sold a lot of shit. I actually bought things off Facebook Marketplace and would flip them. I remember one time finding an old paddle board on the side of the road, and I put it back on, like they were throwing it out because there was something wrong with it. We cleaned it up a little bit, put it on Facebook Marketplace, sold it for $100, made $100. Like, I did whatever the hell I could do. I spray painted furniture. What else did I do? I had kids coming into my house and I was teaching them meditation, charging $10 a head. I was using my skills to solve other people's problems, and I was making money, and then I would take that money and reinvest it in myself and my business, mainly because, people are like, how did you get motivated? I was fucking terrified. My fear of failure as a mother and as a human being was worse than my fear of actually failing in my business. I was so afraid that I was going to fuck up my kids, and so afraid that I was going to live with regret, that was my motivator in the beginning. And I just kept going. I kept investing. I kept hiring that help. And I didn't tell a lot of people. Like, a lot of my family didn't know what I was doing. And to this day, still don't even know what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. They think it's cute. And I laugh because their perception of success is in the traditional sense, right? What's my title? What am I? They don't know how much money I make. They assume a lot of things, and that's okay. I let them assume, but they have no idea, and that's fucking okay. We live in different times, and I am choosing my happiness over the expectations of who other people believe I should be, because I'm not here to live for them. I'm not here to please my parents. I'm here, and whether I make them proud or not, that's not my job. My job is to live my best fucking life and to raise, the best to change my environment for my children. I was hesitant there because I want to say my job is actually not to raise the best kids. My job is to maybe create a safe environment, a loving environment for my children, and then they get to choose who they want to be. I can't do that work for them. So this is about you taking ownership for the results that you desire in your work. And whatever that emotional, I don't want to say emotional block is for you. If you're like, oh yeah, my go-to is guilt. Oh yeah, my go-to is fear. Oh, my go-to is, whatever. I'm type A. I want to do it all. I'm a planner. I'm a perfectionist. You have to face that shit. And if you don't face it, it will keep you stuck. And if you are okay, let me repeat that again. If you are okay being in the exact same place that you are a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then don't move. Do exactly what you're doing. But if you want change, it's time to do something that gets you emotionally uncomfortable. So now I want to hear from you. Send me a message on Instagram at Heather Chauvin. Let me know that you listened to this episode. What was your biggest takeaway? We also continue the conversation inside of our intimate community Facebook group. This is where we try to continue the conversation. I say try. This is where we continue the conversations in our podcast. It's more of like a safe space for women to come. And this is people who want to develop the habit of feeling good, of feeling alive, of feeling successful at home and in their work. So whoever you are, don't judge yourself. If you're like, I'm really called to join this Facebook group, you are invited. So head on over to heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. And also, if you haven't checked it out already, this year we have an amazing offer that we created. It's called Grow Your Business, Shrink Your To-Do List. It's literally $27. And I think you can do some add-ons and it might go up to like $87. This is my no-brainer offer for you. So we have scripts. We talk about where to find your ideal client, how to attract your ideal client. Also, how to sell your value, not your time. This is really about communicating the value, helping you own your area of genius. And I also give you scripts to have those sales conversations, how to handle objections. What else do I give you? A delegation list. So based on this conversation, there's a list of all the things that you can start delegating. I think I even give you a PDF on how to say no respectfully. It's just a juicy bonus. Check that out. Go to Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com/own it, OWNIT. The reason why I created Grow Your Business, Shrink Your To-Do List is because, especially for these business podcasts, is because what I see online and in the world is there is no perfection. There's no one size fits all. When you know how to feel really fucking good while you're growing your business, like this is the work. This is why you're doing what you're doing. You're in business to make an impact. You're in business to have time freedom. If you don't feel like you have those things, your life is not sustainable and you're going to burn out. So don't believe the lie that you've been taught that feeling like shit is the standard and expectation. You are worthy of feeling alive. So I look forward to connecting with you. Love you lots. Please share this podcast if it was of service to you. Tag me on Instagram or anywhere else. Could be LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is. You got this. There it is. You just listened to the Emotionally Uncomfortable podcast. If you want to take this conversation to the next level, head on over to our private Facebook group community, heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. My last name is spelled CHAUVIN. That's heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. Or you can text the word Facebook to 313-710-5199. That's 313-710-5199. It's a U.S. phone number and text message rates will apply. Also, if you are a huge fan of this show, please rate and review it on iTunes. Every review helps another woman like you take back control of how she wants to feel and become emotionally uncomfortable. I truly believe the better we feel, the more alive we become. This is how we are going to change the world. And if you've been watching me for a while, if you've been on the fence and you're curious, how can Heather help me? Head on over to heatherchauvin.com/work with me to check out my mastery and mastery business coaching programs. That's heatherchauvin.com /work with me.